Why do I feel like I have forgotten something that is extremely important about who I am? I begin today with a question. Not a spiritual question, not a philosophical question, just a very human question. Have you ever had this feeling that you have forgotten something very important? Not your keys and not your documents and not somebody's birthday and not a piece of information, rather something about yourself. A feeling that there is something more important about you that you have forgotten. Most people don't ask it that way, so I get it. Your most common questions you might have asked through your entire journey called life is, why do I keep searching? Or why is that when I have everything, I still feel incomplete? Why do I feel different from those around me? And what is this feeling that I have, right? Which I cannot explain. Why do I feel that there is more? Different questions, same source. And I think the question sits underneath far more lives than we realize. Meaning, there are many people who ask this question and talk less about it because of many reasons. Because I have met a lot of people who have built something really amazing for themselves and still carry this question. I've met people who have traveled the world and still carry this question. I've met people who have spent decades on a spiritual path doing their sadhanas and meditations and all the things meaningful and still carry this question. I've met people who have achieved a legacy level success and everything that they once wanted and still carry this question. What arises from this is an interesting possibility. What if this question has got nothing to do with your achievements? What if it's got nothing to do with your success? What if it's got nothing to do with spirituality? And what if it's got something or everything to do with you being a human? Because most of us have been taught the answer to one question our entire life, which is, who are you? Right? Think about it. If I ask you, who are you? You can give me like a million answers, isn't it? Since our childhood, we have been taught to answer this question for ourselves, to define ourselves. What's my name? What do I want to become? What do you do? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your beliefs? What are your personality types? Who are you? Right? And over time, we build an identity. We collect experiences, stories, roles, achievements, failures, labels, and eventually we become the identity. Randomly ask a person, why are you like this? And they say, this is how I have been my entire life. Because that is what you think you are. And then someday, one day, something strange begins to happen. That identity that you have created for yourself stops satisfying you. The role still works. The life also works. Everything that you have achieved still working beautifully. But they don't satisfy you the same way it did once upon a time. And that's usually when people begin to start searching. But here is what fascinates me. The search almost always begins with the assumption that the answer is somewhere outside of us. It can be the next framework of what you want implemented within you. It can be a new teacher, a new philosophy, a new modality, a new purpose, a new version of yourself. The entire self development industry is built upon that assumption. Become more, become better, become healed, become conscious, become successful, become evolved, and become. But what if becoming is not the direction? What if we have become so obsessed with becoming that we have forgotten to ask, another very important question, probably the only meaningful question. What if the deepest movement of human evolution isn't becoming? What if it is something called remembering? Just sit with that for a moment and let that sink in, because they are not the same. Becoming assumes something is missing. Remembering, in the other hand, is something that's already present. Becoming moves towards something, right? Whereas remembering uncovers, becoming creates, whereas remembering reveals. And those are two radically different journeys. Now, before anyone runs off and turns this into some mystical idea, let's keep it simple. I'm not talking about remembering your past lives or remembering Atlantis or Lemuria or Tartaria. I'm not talking about remember where you came from before Earth. I'm talking about something that is much more immediate. I'm talking about something about the possibility that most human beings have mistaken that the identity they have built for the totality of what they are. Think about it. The identity you have built is incredibly useful. I'm not saying it's not. It helps you navigate life. It helps you function. It helps you relate to others. But what if it's only a tiny fraction of what you are? What if the feeling that you have forgotten something isn't a problem? What if it is intelligence? What if it's the system recognizing, when I say system, the human system recognizing that there is more available than the identity that currently allows it? Because that's what I have noticed. Multiple conversations with multiple people across different levels of life, of work, of success. The question tends to appear when a person reaches the edge of an identity. The executive reaches it, the parent reaches it, the entrepreneur reaches it, the healer, the seeker, the spiritual person. At some point in time, they all reach a limit. And then life starts asking something else. Not a better identity, no. Not a bigger identity as well, no. But something beyond identity. And that's where another question begins to emerge. The question, I think, is far powerful. Like most people spend their life asking, who am I? A small group eventually begin asking, what am I? Can you feel the difference? Who am I asks for a role, an identity. What am I asks for an architecture, asks about the architecture of what you are. Who am I asks for a definition. But what am I asks about the nature of the being living this experience. Who am I wants an answer. But what am I changes the entire conversation. And perhaps that is why so many people feel that they have forgotten something important. Because the question isn't trying to lead them towards a new identity. It's trying to lead them beyond identity altogether. Now, I don't expect you to agree with any of this. Okay. In fact, I don't even want you to agree or try to agree. I want you to sit with this possibility though. What if the feeling that you have been carrying all these years isn't confusion? What if it is recognition? What if something within you already knows that there is more? And what if the question, okay? What if the question isn't asking you to something, asking you to become something? What if the question is asking you to remember something, and that remembering something is remembering you? I have written a much deeper exploration of this question in my blog. And in this article, I explore the psychological aspect of it, the spiritual, the mythical, the consciousness perspectives behind this experience, and why so many people seem to be encountering it right now, at this moment, as we are speaking. You'll find the link below in the description. And if you love to read, then you should head over to that blog and let yourself down the rabbit hole. And if this question has been silently following you for years, I think you should start here. It's simple to understand. Give it a go. Yeah.